Pleasant good morning, friends, fans, family, well wishers. As you know, the morning for me is the best part of the day before anything negative has happened. So I'm always wishing you that sentiment of positivity and that kind of energy, regardless of the time of the day that you are listening or tuning in to Richard's Rants. Thank you again for your continued support. Today, I was inspired, as I usually am, from the newspaper. I was thinking about death, actually. It was the poet John Keats. Now, as sophisticated as that may make me sound, it's just something that we had to do for literature in Form 6 A levels. But basically, Keats was going through some shit. He was diagnosed with a terminal disease, something for his time that was terminal, like chickenpox or consumption. Some one of them. I think it was polio, something. And he was young, like under 25, and he found himself in love. So he took to writing to express his dying emotions. And his legacy lives on. Children around the world are forced to immerse themselves in John Keats. But for me, what I got from it, what I lived by, and why literature class was always so important to me, is that he explained that it is only through the juxtapositions and comparisons in life that we get to appreciate anything, really. So, for example, ugly people have a purpose. If there were no ugly people, then there wouldn't be pretty people. If pretty people would just be ordinary. That would be the norm. So, in a deeper sense, without bad, we would have no concept of what is good. And wouldn't that be a tragedy? So, in thinking about death, I was actually thinking about life and the kind of life that you would want to live. What would you want to be remembered for? Or who would you want to remember you? What legacy would you like to leave on? Leave with this world? And why? Beyonce has this wonderful song, I Was Here. Want to leave my footprints in the sands of time, knowing that I made a difference in somebody's life. And I could relate to that. I mean, we are here. We should make some sort of a difference. Or at least, for the very least, enjoy the ride. Religion. Well, religion for me is the biggest gamble. Although most religions would advocate against the habit of gambling. But all religion really is taking what you have, this life, this reality, this existence that you know, and squandering it in a way, putting all these restrictions, not doing this, not doing that, in hopes that it will qualify you for a better existence in the next life, that we have no idea what it is. So you are gambling this existence for the next existence. But instead of calling it gambling, religion calls it faith, which is beautiful. But it's gambling. So, in that sense, I personally believe that this is the existence that we have, and you ought to get the absolute most out of it. Having said that, I am not advocating recklessness or doing things at the expense of others' enjoyment of their experience. Whatever their enjoyment entails, that's fine. So, the first story that touched me is a youngster. He is in standard 3, so that would mean that he is, let's see, about 9, 10. If so much, let's say 9, 10, right? And he has cancer. His parents did the chemo, they did the radiation, and it's not working. so they need to do something called salvage therapy, which is whereby, or I'm not going to explain what it is, but that's the therapy that they need. Basically, he needs a bone marrow transplant, and he needs it from his parents. And the best place and court that they could have gotten to do it is in India, 160,000 US dollars, rounding up. So I do wonder why we can't do it here, considering we have free healthcare, considering we have a medical school, considering we have a $60 billion economy. But what really stands out is the young man's attitude about it. According to his parents, he comforts them, and he's even still going to school online like everybody else. And when he has his good days, he has his good days, he plays whatever have you. When he has his bad days, he just, relax. And I mean to say, if I was 8-9 years when I had cancer and I was going to die, I wasn't going to school. I would have thrown a tantrum. That's just amazing that the way he is facing mortality, something that drives us to do everything that we do, drives us to live because we could die. And his concern is his parents and how they are handling it. And for me, that's just wow, especially at 9. Now, all humans, of course, do face mortality. Even some in a more dramatic and tangible way than others. Athletes, models, for example, after a particular age, they can't play the sport anymore, and they're faced with the fact that scientifically and physically, actual, theory, practical, the body is declining. That must be strange to deal with, especially when you're healthy and active. And I mean, Tiger Woods is facing the end of his career. He did a back surgery so that he could get some a longer lease, a longer time, and then he went and crashed his car. So it looks bleak, and he's 45. And life as he knows it, remember, he always wanted to do golf, and he is still the number one golfer in the world, and that could all be over. In his case, however, he'll be facing his career almost over for the second time, but still at 45, that basically could be it. So that mortality is a serious thing, and this young child is dealing with it at 9, at 8. Then we have the death of a local sports icon, Larry Joseph. Not the comedian, I did say sporting icon. And he went to Presentation College, he played on the national team, and then he maintained a presence in the sport in his community of Labrador. But he was so much more than that. People talk about how he was known in the community, how he would help everyone, how he made a difference in their lives, how he was there for them, the advice he gave, the things he did, the way that he conducted his affairs, his marriage. By affairs, I don't mean outside women. The way he conducted himself and, his marriage, his family life, all of that. And his death was so important. It was in the newspaper. It reminded me as to a tombstone. A tombstone, there's no H, that I saw. Recently, a special friend of my mother passed away, and at the funeral, I decided to take a stroll through the cemetery, as one does. And I was reading the tombstones. Now, there are some beautiful, long-time, ancient names. Anybody that is having a child, I would actually recommend you take a walk through a cemetery and look at those names. It may be a bit weird, but it is in line with, without death, there wouldn't be life. And you will get some good names in there. Besides Gertrude and Eunice and Constance. Now, in that walk, I saw this tombstone that said, if my tears could build a staircase, I would use it to climb to heaven and bring you back with me, or bring you back to me. Either way, isn't that one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful thing you have ever heard? And then, of course, having the brain that I have, there comes the analysis that what they had on earth was so great that the person left behind doesn't want to go to heaven to meet them, and the person in heaven will leave heaven to come back. That is, now that's a testimony to the love that they share. I don't remember if it was a dead male or a dead female. And okay, for eloquence purposes, if the deceased was a male or female, and as such the writer, but I do remember those words. And yeah. But you know who may not get those words on their tombstone? This businessman that took money from 6 different people promising them their dream car. I don't understand the life he's living. Even if it is you get through once, you get through twice, 6 times. And why is our legal system happening out on bail with another court date? All this is probably why Sean Luke accusers in prison for 14 years. Why are we wasting time? I would imagine that there's a paper trail, there's a receipt, there's a check, there's a person, there's an ID, the case closed. What the TTV is about? Why we just be wasting all this time is beyond me. But then again, why would he necessarily be the one to blame when we live in a society where the politicians seem to do the same things? All of these Venezuelan nationals that were in the airports were stranded because of legal or diplomatic bureaucracy. America, big bad America, that had trillions of dollars in debt that the world still bows to because they're the number one consumer. But as to how it works, so if you're in debt, they alone knows. That's for the economists and the Warren Buffetts and whatnot to try to make sense of. But quite frankly, I believe it's foolishness. But they get to tell the world that if it is you deal with this person or that person, I'm not your friend again, and you're not getting to touch my purse. So they just call it sanctions. So the airline that Venezuela uses, kind of like Caribbean Airlines is to us, Air Jamaica, American Airlines, was sanctioned because Big Bad America claims that they were, and they probably were, using the airlines, to TTV and do their little illegalities and, whatever have you. But meanwhile, the people are stranded in Trinidad. They would have sold whatever they had obtained in their stay in Trinidad and were forced to just sit in the airport because of diplomatic. This was actually going on for months. So why exactly did this even happen? How could that happen? But of course, you know, the paperwork was more important than actual lives, than actual reuniting with families, than actual people that had medical conditions, including terminally ill persons. So why it is I can't just take six people money for a dream car? Nobody seems to care in any case. And while that is the reality of the life that we live, I think that we should strive for better. Like this girl in Venezuela. Well, big hardback woman. She's a scientist named Johanna. And she is studying the melting of the ice glaciers and global warming. She seems to have a fantastic positive attitude because rather than focus on the melting and climate change, she is using this as an opportunity to see how the world or the earth would respond to a new environment, being thought out, how vegetation would grow, how the earth would regenerate. So she's actually doing that study, which of course would be useful, especially if we continue to fuck up the planet. So she's doing this, however, in Venezuela, where currents will go, the samples will die because it don't have the coldness, it don't have no internet, it don't have no water. And according to the article that I read, she is having to walk an extra 3 hours on average every single day because that's how rapid the ice cap is melting. She has lost support, she has lost colleagues, not through death, through exodus from Venezuela, but she's staying. And I mean, her work could prove pivotal to the species survival if it comes down to it, right? Or it could at least contribute. And she's doing this because she wants to. No other reason other than she wants to. So, I mean, you could choose the type of human that you want to be. And I am sure if she's smart enough to do all of this, she could have defrauded 1 million people with some car deal. But this is what she's choosing to do. Her tombstone should be great, And I personally am impressed. I went on a river line the other day and I wasn't climbing no damn mountain because, I had to drag my ass on the floor, which I did, with all of the male pride that I could muster, on all fours, ass to the ground, kind of like a spider, with a very serious face, very serious. I'm afraid of heights. And I could have just seen myself in the midst of a Humpty Dumpty debacle. And I wasn't having it. So if it was up to me to climb the mountain for the we would melt. We would melt. And you know what? The reality is that all of us have different traits. We have different gifts. We have different things that come naturally to us, that it's just easy to us. There are people that enjoy doing things like washing wares, which I hate. There are people that enjoy doing things like gardening, which I hate. There are people that enjoy doing the world of things, that you may not like. There are people that enjoy driving. There are people that enjoy singing, and it comes naturally to them. And if it's one thing that millennial culture has given the world, is that we are all equal and all should be included, and we are all special in our own way. And while that could contradict Keats, meaning that for one to be special, one has to be ordinary, the truth is both are correct, because what you are special in, I am ordinary in. And that is what makes you special. We all have worth, we all have value, and we all can contribute to the whole. This girl that acting Blackish as the pretty daughter, well, that's the archetype that she was given, and then she got the spin-off Grownish. she had an article as well talking about, now she directing, of course, and how they have a call sheet in which they actually place the actors in order of their importance to the production. And that is done with everything. So you would get your car delivered first, your costume delivered first, even your parking spot assigned first and closer to the studio. And with her production now, she has discontinued that and tried to do it all randomly, because everybody has a value, everybody has, a worth and input. And I think that was worthy of mentioning. Something to think about. Something that I wish the Princestown taxi drivers thought about, because they are in the papers with their new quote-unquote uniform, because they believe that they should be easily identifiable to the public, and that would help with crime and knowing which car to go in and that sort of thing. But one, I believe that if they were doing what they were supposed to do in the first place, this wouldn't have happened. It is law in this country that you are not allowed to drive unless you are attired in a particular way. And taxi drivers in particular are supposed to have soft shoes, long sleeve shirts, I believe, but I stand to be corrected, a tie and soft pants. So, for those that don't know, soft, casual, formal, or casually formal, khakis. So, not CARKEYS. And don't know what time of the day you might be listening. You might be a little sleepy, but as in khaki pants. So, if they were doing that, they would have been identifiable in the first place. In addition to that, they have a taxi driver association. And the only thing that the taxi driver association has seemed to associate itself with is raising fares. And for me, I believe the power of the taxi driver association should have been, but not limited to, making sure that their taxis on the stand 24 hours a day, possibly having a profit sharing arrangement among all taxi drivers, possibly even having a bank account and monthly payment structure, something like that, so everybody puts their money into the bank, or they have to give a percentage to assist with the people assigned to the slower shifts. Anything like that could work. Advertising for their personal services, professional services, private services. I'm talking specifically about driving, and transport. And they should be able to get discounts on car parts, car maintenance, gas. They should be able to be a part of the community, sponsor events, that sort of thing. And in taking their job seriously and not only being selfish and looking after themselves, we wouldn't need you to now wear colorful t-shirts to identify yourself. And quite frankly, we don't care that you are. Makes no difference really at this point. All we have to do, people, is do the best that we could do. And everything would just be so simple. Think about the collective and think about the individual at the same time. Think about you as part of a whole something, a whole family, community, society, country, world, and contribute positively. It's not hard. You just need to get over that selfishness. Think about the life that you're living. Think about the legacy that you're leaving. So thank you for listening to Richard Rant, of course, being brought to you by Mikkel with his sponsorship of the mic. And of course, if you need any electronic repairs, just inbox me and I will pass it on to him. Thank you for listening and have a great rest of your day. Do the best that you can do. and be content with what that best is. You could improve on it, but be content with what it is. And bye bye for now.